Hello, welcome. In this video we explain why didn't Japan get divided after World War II like Germany. Strictly speaking, the Japanese Empire did get divided. Territorially, the Japanese Empire was partitioned like what happened to Germany, though MacArthur wasn't as nearly vindictive against the Japanese people like the Germans had suffered at the hands of the Allies and the Soviets. First, a list of territorial changes to Japan after the war. Korea was a part of the Japanese Empire for decades. At various times, the Japanese tried to culturally assimilate Korea, and other times tried to prevent that. Arguably, the position of the Koreans to the Japanese was similar to that of the Irish to the British a few hundred years ago. Perhaps even the Normans under William the Conqueror to the English would also be an apt comparison. Anyways, Korea was split off of Japan, and then partitioned between USA and USSR. The portion administered by the USA is now South Korea, or formerly the Republic of Korea. The portion that was administered by the USSR is North Korea, or formerly the People's Republic of Korea. Okinawa was a part of the Japanese Empire for some 75 years. It was effectively annexed by USA, until it was returned to Japan in 1972. Along with Okinawa, there were also a few other islands, like Iwo Jima, which were considered part of Japan. Taiwan was taken from China some 75 years before. The Japanese were, like in Korea, sometimes taking measures to try to assimilate Taiwan, and sometimes not. Either way, it was left under US administration pending the end of the Chinese Civil War. Taiwan is now pretty much the only remnant of the Republic of China. The Soviets annexed the Karil Islands and the portions of Sakhalin that were under Japanese control. These were considered part of Japan. The Japanese had a League of Nations mandate of a lot of islands in the Pacific. These were turned over to US administration. This now comprises Palau, Micronesia, the Marshall Islands, and the US Commonwealth of Northern Marianas. Okay, so Okinawa, the Karil Islands, and the portion of Sakhalin were considered part of Japan that were lost. Additionally, there were several major territories, like Korea and Taiwan, that were more than colonies given the occasional Japanese attempts at culturally assimilating them. Then they lost actual colonies, and various client and puppet states. They lost their empire, and were left with little more than a bombed-out homeland under foreign control. As I understand it, it wasn't handled in a vindictive manner like what happened to Germany, but this question seems to be about partitioning of a defeated foe, not the governance of those pieces. So, the territorial division of the Japanese Empire was like that of Nazi Germany.